Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you can guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You will hear a conversation between Cindy and Bob. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 10.
So, Bob, how many people have said that they're coming on the company picnic?
Well, Cindy, we've got 35 definite and another 10 probable.
Shall we say 50?
I think so. And we've fixed the date for...
The 26th, the last Sunday in August.
Great. I hope the weather's good.
Should be. Now, we have to decide where to order the food from and what kind of things we want.
Right. What's our budget?
We've decided to go for £10 a head for food and £5 a head for drinks.
OK, I got some pamphlets from caterers. What do you think?
The most important thing is to make sure that there's a variety of food. We don't want people complaining that they don't like anything.
We also don't want food that could deteriorate in the sun. Ice cream, that kind of thing.
You've seen these pamphlets.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have 30 seconds to read questions.
What do you think?
Well, I thought Paris Kitchen looked good. The price almost exactly meets our budget, and they seem to have a good variety.
I don't know. A friend of mine used them for her company and wasn't impressed.
Really? What exactly didn't she like?
Well, the food. She said the food was good, but not quite the variety they'd expected. The drinks included some wine, which was apparently not very good.
Oh, well, perhaps we need to consider this one, company caterers.
Looks a bit pricey. Mind you, I've heard that they are very good.
Let me check the price. Yes, £12 a head for food. That's more than our budget. Do you think we could get a discount?
Let's see if it says anything in the pamphlet. Yes, they do offer a discount for groups of more than 30. 10%. Does that help us?
10% off £12. It's still more than we budgeted for.
Hey, look at this one. Celebrations.
It's a new company. I asked a few people about them, but no one has any ideas.
Well, let's see. £9 a head for food and £5 a head for drinks. That's fine. What kind of food do they have? It says here that they just provide cold meals for picnics. Well, that's okay. And they include vegetarian dishes. We do have some vegetarians to take into consideration.
Well, it looks good to me. The only problem is their lack of experience. I mean, it's a bit of a risk, isn't it?
Yes, if the food's no good, we'll look incompetent.
Ah, look here. It says that we can visit their premises and try some of the dishes they offer.
You mean we might get a free lunch? Shall we call them and arrange to go and see them?
OK, which day? How about tomorrow?
No, we've got that meeting. The day after tomorrow, Thursday.
Good. Time?
11?
Good. Right. What's their phone number? 28653479. We also need to ask them whether they can deliver straight to the picnic site, don't we?
Yes, I don't think that'll be a problem though. I mean, it's on the outskirts of the city, but it's not too far away. Does the price include delivery?
It doesn't say, but the other companies include it, so they should. If they don't, our budget still allows us to pay a small fee.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
You will hear a presentation on advice on legal matters. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 20.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sally Miller, and I'm here to offer you some advice on legal matters whilst you are studying at this university. Happily, most international students complete their courses without running into any serious legal problems. But if you do find yourself involved in a legal dispute of any kind, ask for help. There are 2 options. First, contact the students' union or welfare officer. Even if they cannot help you directly, they should be able to advise you where to go for help. The second possibility is to contact the Citizens Advice Bureau in your area. You can find them in the local telephone directory. They will be able to recommend a solicitor if you need one, and tell you if there is a local law centre providing free legal advice. They will also be able to tell you whether you can claim legal aid to help pay for any court and legal fees. Let me give you some basic information about the police. The police have the power to stop and search anyone who appears to be behaving in a suspicious manner. If you are arrested for any reason, even if you know it to be a wrong reason, remember a few very important things. 1. Don't be aggressive. 2. Do not try to bribe the police officer. 3. If you are arrested by plainclothes police officers, ask to see some form of identification. 4. Give your true name and address if the officer asks you to. Lying to the police is a criminal offence. 5. Do not sign any statement until you have received advice from a solicitor. There is always a solicitor on duty at every police station. 6. You will be entitled to make 1 telephone call. If you use this call to telephone a friend, urge your friend to contact someone from your university or from the Students' Union and get advice about what you should do next.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have 30 seconds to read questions.
Remember, obey the local laws. The laws here may not be quite the same as in your own country. Here are a few examples of actions that are illegal here. It is against the law to possess offensive weapons. For example, knives, guns, chemical sprays used for personal defense. Even women are not allowed to carry sprays or other deterrents to protect themselves against possible assault. except for rape alarms. Possess or supply hard or soft drugs. Disturb the peace. This is called disorderly conduct. This means that you can be arrested for being too noisy or rowdy. A few words about drinking. In this country, it is perfectly acceptable for adults to drink alcohol in moderate amounts. For many people, drinking is an established part of their social life. Going out for a drink is how they relax or spend time with friends. If you go to a party or visit people at home in the evening, your host will probably offer you a drink. Often a lot of university social life can revolve around drinking, especially for undergraduates. Do not be surprised if people arrange to meet in a bar, or if events are held in a pub. But you are not obliged to drink alcohol if you do not want to, even if you are in a pub or at a party where everyone else is drinking. You can always ask for a non-alcoholic drink instead. And if you feel uncomfortable going to places that serve alcohol, explain this to your friends. There are lots of other places where you can meet. If you do choose to drink, remember that you should never drive a motor vehicle after drinking alcohol. It is dangerous, and the police can impose serious penalties on you. Also, remember that being drunk in public is not acceptable either, and the police can arrest you for it. Drugs and alcohol can cause serious problems. Let me repeat that in this country it is illegal to use drugs, except under medical supervision. But if you do use illegal drugs and you develop a problem, there are organisations you can contact. Contact your students' union or your student counsellor. Anyone over 18 years old can legally buy and consume alcoholic drinks in this country. But if you think you might be drinking too much, get help and advice from your student counsellor or your doctor. Again, there are special organisations that can help you with drug and alcohol problems. Contact them.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You will hear two students talking about their postgraduate research. Before you listen, you have 30 seconds to read questions.
Hey Marcus, how are you?
I'm really well.
I thought you were in South Africa.
I was until a month ago. I came back to do a PhD.
Do you know what you're getting into? I'm writing a master's thesis and it's driving me crazy.
Oh dear.
I heard you had an amazing job in a national park. Why would you give that up?
It's true. I started out working in a national park, looking after ostriches. And it did seem like my dream job. But almost by accident, I got involved in taking DNA samples from the birds. I ended up analysing the samples, myself, in a lab in Cape Town. It was incredible, working in the lab. Suddenly, I realised I had greater ambitions than being a park ranger.
Well, well. What was the DNA for?
You see, ostriches are part of a group of flightless birds called ratites. And there's a mystery in ornithology about how they spread around the globe when they can't fly.
That is weird.
There's one hypothesis that they originated in Gondwanaland, a supercontinent that moved apart from Pangaea between 200 and 120 million years ago.
Didn't Gondwanaland separate into Australia, Africa and South America?
That's right. Plus Antarctica and India. The theory is that ratites stayed on the drifting land masses, which would account for their present distribution. In the opposing hypothesis, borne out in the fossil record, ratites originated in the northern supercontinent called Laurasia. Then they flew south, but lost the ability to fly around 50 million years ago.
Which theory do you favour?
I'm keen on the Gondwanaland one because DNA analysis shows ostriches are the oldest of the ratites, and according to geologists, Africa broke away from Gondwanaland first. Also, DNA analysis of the extinct elephant bird of Madagascar and the kiwi of New Zealand suggests they're close relatives, so it's unlikely they became flightless independently.
But isn't the fossil record more reliable?
Not really. It's open to interpretation.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have 30 seconds to read questions 27 to 30.
How's your research going?
Not so well, I'm afraid.
I presume you're doing a master's in public health. What's the topic of your thesis?
Well, that was my first problem. It's changed about 20 times. Currently, I'm looking at fathers' visiting habits in neonatal wards.
Remind me how old neonatal babies are.
Up to 4 weeks.
And what's the aim of your research?
I'd like to propose a change to hospital policy. I think limited access by fathers to their newborns would improve the health of infants and their mothers, especially in intensive care.
Whoa! That's a radical idea. Letting the family be part of the birth process has been standard practice in hospitals for 40 years.
And because of that, I chose a quantitative research methodology.
You'll have to tell me what that is again as well.
Quantitative research collects data that can be explained numerically. It's used to determine general trends.
Uh-huh.
But my next obstacle was that I couldn't get a large enough sample of paternal behaviour to analyse it quantitatively.
Why not?
4 of the hospitals I approached refused me access to their patients. I did get permission from 2 others where I used to work, but the results of my survey were so scattered I couldn't model anything.
So, what did you do?
I opted for a qualitative approach. I gave up large data collection and did in-depth interviews with a handful of fathers. At the same time, I set up an online discussion group for fathers.
How did that go?
Frankly, it was too slow to be useful. I've got to finish my thesis by the end of the year, and managing the website took too much time.
Have you considered regression analysis? That is, determining the strength of the relationship between variables. It's used for things like trying to prove that video games lead to more violence among young viewers.
Yes, I have. In fact, I've changed supervisors, and my new one has guided me towards regression analysis. So, at last, I'm making progress.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
You will hear a lecture on searching for planets similar to Earth. Read questions 31 to 40.
For hundreds of years, people have wondered whether other planets could sustain human life. 20th century space missions cast doubt over colonization of our own solar system. But there's plenty of hope beyond. Distant bodies orbiting faraway stars are known as exoplanets. Since 1996, thousands of exoplanets have been found, most of which are massive hot balls of gas, like Jupiter. However, a new U.S. mission is focusing on smaller planets, 1/2 to twice the size of Earth. These must also be close enough to their star to be in a habitable zone. Today, I'd like to discuss NASA's Kepler mission, which began in 2009 and is ongoing. But first, who was Kepler? Well, Johannes Kepler lived from 1571 to 1630 mostly in what is now Germany. He was a physicist, astronomer, and optician. He was the first person to explain planetary motion correctly, and more importantly, he developed a way of working in which he sought to prove that theories must be universal, verifiable, and precise. This is known as the scientific method. I do think it is fitting that a tiny spacecraft is named after a giant of astronomy. NASA's Kepler satellite is small and relatively simple. Other telescopes, like Hubble, provide exciting data. But Kepler surveys just one area of the galaxy, the constellations Cygnus and Lyrae, and records events over several years. It has already identified around 1,000 new planets and provided data on another 3,000 potential planets. Kepler is powered by a solar array. Its largest instrument is a photometer, a sensor that measures the light emitted by more than 100,000 stars. The photometer is so sensitive it can detect a drop in brightness when a planet moves or transits in front of a star of 1 part in 10,000. This is like recording the decreased brightness of a car headlight when a small insect flies across it. When a planet transits, NASA's computers graph the curving light from the star. Regular, repeated dips in the curve could indicate a new planet. A smaller dip, when a planet passes behind its star, creates reflections. Scientists can draw conclusions about the planet's atmosphere from these reflections because, as Kepler knew, the laws of physics and chemistry are universal, even way out in space. For example, light is absorbed by different atoms at different wavelengths, so a light signature provides data on a planet's atmosphere. Hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, sodium, and other elements have been identified in new planets. However, the proportion of their composition is uncertain, making the detection of water difficult. But back to the Kepler data and some recent candidates for human habitation. In 2013, a star named Kepler-6 was found with 2 planets in its habitable zone. At first, these were considered similar to Earth, but on further analysis, each planet's mass was found to be several times greater than that of Earth. Their gravity might be strong enough to pull in helium and hydrogen gas, but this makes them similar to Neptune rather than Earth. The following year, a star called Kepler-186 came under scrutiny. Its 5th planet, known as Kepler-186f, seemed a more likely candidate. With a diameter of 14,000 kilometers, it is roughly 10% wider than Earth. It orbits close enough to Kepler-186 for it to be temperate, allowing water to flow at the surface. Smaller than the planets orbiting Kepler-6 Kepler-186f is more likely to have similar gravity to Earth's and a rocky surface, perhaps containing iron, ice, and liquid water. At the outer edge of the habitable zone, its surface may freeze, as it receives 1/6 of the light from its star that Earth does from the Sun. On the other hand, with a greater mass, Kepler-186f may have a thicker atmosphere providing sufficient insulation. This has led astronomers to dub Kepler 186f Earth's cousin, not its twin. But I can hear you thinking, okay, there are planets out there that sound Earth-like, but can we reach them? Currently, no. In the near to medium-term future, afraid not. The only known man-made object to have left the solar system is the unmanned Voyager 1 probe. This happened in late 2013, and it had taken 37 years to travel from Earth. Voyager travels at around 61,000 kilometers per hour. Kepler 186f is about 500 light-years away. At Voyager's current speed, it'd take 17,400 years to travel a single light-year, or 8.7 million years for the journey from Earth to Kepler 186f. The Space Shuttle, the only speedy manned spacecraft, is far slower than Voyager, with speeds of just 45,000 kilometers per hour, meaning a 12-million-year journey. Meantime, the Hubble telescope is investigating a suitable planet called GJ124b at a distance of 40 light-years away. But whether a planet is 40 or 500 light-years away is immaterial. Humans have always reached for the stars. Kepler the man and Kepler the spacecraft have raised the possibility of human habitation. Only our transport remains primitive.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you get guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.